Yes, welcome to the Shelter FootyCast. A little bit late today, sorry about that. Live from BackChat Studios, Southern River Band. They're in Europe, I think, playing big things. Shelterfootycast.com.au, all of our stuff there. Mark Reddings joins me. His phone's back and working. Comes in today and says, Schoey, my phone's stuffed. It's not working.
Yep.
And I said, give it here. Why don't you talk us through? Hello, Skeeta, how are you?
Hello, Schoey. My phone froze this morning. I was doing some breakfast radio. I thought maybe it was the temperature of the outside would be about 2.5 degrees. But
unfixable, you
unfixable. Have to go and see my mate at Dog Swamp. And I've been to about 5 times. And
who's your mate? You don't have to.
He's a very good Asian gentleman who does his work, and he charges me maybe $30 to fix it every time. So he's done it about 5 times, and he must. When I walk through the door each time because the phone's frozen, he must think, here comes another victim. And just went bang. So this cost me about $150. You just press a few buttons and it's back. So
you're so livid. I fixed it too. You said not fixable. I said give it here. You won't be able to fix it. You won't be able to do anything. Just give it here, Skeeta. It took me how long did it take?
90 seconds maximum, which made me really. Well, I've got the phone back, which is great, but then I've got to give you a bit of a pat on the back.
And I can tell you how long it takes old mate at Dog Swamp. It'll take him 5 seconds.
For $30.
And he changes 30. Does he tell you, come back in 4 hours?
No, he says, come back in about an hour. So, this is great.
He would fix it by looking at it, mate. He would just look at it done, put it in the bin.
Anyway.
Cash or credit, big fella. Brilliant stuff. Shelter FootyCast. We are back for your Monday morning. Last of the buys, Skeeta. So next week,
for that.
Finally, the 9 games.
And next year, hopefully, people bag Chris Scott. I reckon it's a good idea. Just have a week off next year.
So that's his idea, is that who's been...
Whoever's idea it is. He certainly has come out publicly. And I know the broadcasters don't want that.
Put something there if you like.
Yeah, well, whether you have... I'm not sure what you can put in...
Bring the legends going back. Is that
anyway, irrespective, just from... I don't think anyone in the footy industry would say, no, let's not have a full week off. Everyone go and have a breather and reset for the second half of the year. Instead of the way it's been staggered, I don't like it, but... whether that... I don't think, given next year's going to look a lot differently, I think with the scheduling, that this will be spread over 3 weeks.
I promise I haven't given 1 second of thought to this in my life.
About what?
What I'm about to say. So this is very much shooting from the hip, Skeeta, which is not really a change from anything that happens down the Shelter FootyCast. So I played last year in started this year, WA All-Stars game.
Yes.
And it was all Freo old boys, West Coast old boys. Could you have a festival of footy in the middle of the year, but it's all old boys all around, and you do them in each state? So you have one in WA, you have one in SA, you have one in Victoria, do one in Sydney, one in Queensland. You could even put one in the Northern Territory if you like, and one in Tassie, and have them all like multicast. So you got like 6 games going on, you got commentators going on everywhere, broadcasters get their lick. You sponsor it heavily. Get Shelter sponsoring the West Australian one. Don't like it?
No, I don't.
I loved playing in it, and there was a lot. There was more people down there that come to a waffle game. Put it that way.
Yeah, idea is good. To be honest with you, if you're trying to promote the quality of football,
not trying to promote anything. No, really. It's just trying to give you a gap, something to watch.
Well, what I'm saying is that's where you play. If the AFL's trying to look after local leagues, that's where you play your state matches between WA and SA, perhaps that weekend. That's just an idea, but that's yours.
So give actual footballers a chance.
Blokes like yourself. So I don't mind the concept because you're obviously raising money for charity.
Yes,
most likely. But this is, I think maybe play the state game in that week off, and whether it's the under-18 national championships, all part of that. I don't know. It's
good point.
It's probably that's down the track, but you're right. And neither of us have given it that much thought, but and you can tell by listening to us.
All right, there is one big issue I want to talk about. But before we get there, make sure you sign up as a VIP to the podcast and a few more. Welcome. Skeeta's given his best investments on Thursdays, which was very good last week. Did it get
just
up?
came?
Okay.
No,
we can't give what. No, you can't tell what it was because it's just for our VIPs.
Oh,
mate.
okay, VIP.
Win or lose. It lost.
Yeah,
okay. Very good. Yep, so you can get some more losing investments. Sign up as a Patreon. You can get the Schoey tier for $10 or Skeeta tier for $75, which will get you a carton of shelter as well as free tickets to every event down there as well. If you just want beers, you can get 10% off right now using Shelter FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. And the last of our giveaways, Skeeta, the Travel and Sports Australia giveaway, 2 tickets on the plane with the players there and back to the MCG. That's right, your chance to go and watch West Coast play Melbourne round 17. You'd have to say given how Melbourne's going, this could be an away win to the West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, they've been pretty poor the last month. Melbourne, they've had some issues, obviously losing their best player or close to it. And the Eagles, we'll talk about it. They were certainly better on the road yesterday.
Sunday, July the 7th, that one is. So you'll fly out on the Friday the 5th, and you'll be back on the Sunday. Listen up during this podcast for the code word you need to enter at backchatstudios.com.au, or you can enter it at shelterfootycast.com.au. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter Footycast. Okay, Stephen May is he is the poster boy for this one, unfortunately, and it hurts me to say because he's a brilliant backman, gets his job done every week. He's a leader of the Melbourne Footy Club. But I was watching that game against North Melbourne on the weekend, and I saw something that did not sit too well for me. Without getting too far into the incident, game on the line, there might have been a goal or two in it. North Melbourne had all the momentum, and he's taken the footy. He was one of the last offenders. He's been tackled. He's been spun around twice. He tried to take and break the tackle, thrown to the ground, and the way I'm talking through this is how long it took. It was about a 10-second ordeal. Hit the ground, shoulder first, no head, realised he was in trouble, threw the head to the ground, held the head. He didn't hit his head on the ground. He did it himself. And the umpire, after 10 seconds of watching this go on, paid the free kick to Stephen May. I don't think this is a personal one for Stephen May. Yes, he'll be embarrassed with it. Yes, it's not something you want to see him doing personally, but I don't think it's just him. I've seen it multiple times this year, Skeeta. I've got a solution for this one.
Well, we have got the solution. We've talked about it. You spoke about it a couple of months ago, and I brought into play the NRL theory, and I'm not sure it's been brought in yet, but it's certainly along the similar lines to what you were talking about.
If you hold your head, if you hit your head, you're off. And so that will say, if you hit your head and you're holding your head, you're either hurt and you need to get off anyway and assessed because you've hit your head. That's the rule. If you're faking, you can get off as well because we don't want it in the game, Skeeta. We can't have that.
So what happens to Sam Walsh, whose head does hit the ground?
He should be off, mate. They should have an independent concussion doctor, and he's got to get off and get assessed. Otherwise, we're not taking this seriously. I understand that he may not be feeling anything, but that's the whole thing with head knocks. Like that's literally why we're seeing the inconsistencies in our game. Is because the AFL is telling us they're trying to protect the head. So if they're taking that seriously, yeah, Sam Walsh is off, right? Because Patrick Dangerfield's missing a week, isn't he?
Well, he shouldn't be. But I don't like what's happened to him.
Neither do I. But this is what Hamish Brayshaw was talking about a few months ago over on BackChat. If you want to have some integrity, AFL, and you want to protect the head, then protect the head, right? If you got blokes staging and pretending that their head's hit and hurt, get them off. If people hit their head, get them off. Like, just do that. That would be pretty simple, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but if the player hits his head on the ground in a glancing blow, if you want to call it that way, something that's
independent doctor.
So 15 minutes irrespective.
Well, independent doctor, yeah. That like if you get called for
15 minutes,
it's just like when the ball gets touched. It's a point. If your head gets hit and the doctor says get off, then you get off.
Yeah. Oh, look, in theory you're right, but you're right. The Stephen May one, I think if you do try and milk the free kick, and in that case, yeah, free kick, but you're off for an assessment.
Yeah, correct.
That to me,
that would fix it.
That stops it really quickly.
So they do that in the NRL, or they're just
Graham Annesley, who's the NRL in charge of that department, I think they're generally looking at it because that's what's happened in the NRL. Players go down after being maybe taken high or taken high.
They've got the dangerous tackles as well, all that. Same as us.
Yeah, exactly. So if they stay down, the referee sometimes is obliged to stop the play, check on the injury. What happens in the interim is that the bunker has a look at the incident. Now, obviously, they're trying to extract the penalties. That's why they stayed down. But if you then look at the replay and the player plays on and gets up once he's won the penalty, shows you that there's certainly some manipulation of the rules. And I agree with you with regards to elements of what you're saying.
If you're going to fake it, you're off for 10 minutes. So you can fake it, no worries, but you have 10 minutes off. I've seen the Euros the last few nights. So it's just the carry on there, mate. If we get anywhere near that, you put our game in the bin. And there's people that are crying out, fans are... I think there's a certain undercurrent of fans that aren't liking the direction of the game. Well, this is a part of it, right? This is a part of it, and the players are playing into it a little bit. They know that they're going to get a free kick if they throw their head back or they hold their head. We've seen it multiple times. I brought it up when the Michael Walters one with Tom Barras, because he got up and took his kick straight away, but he was holding his head like he was hit with a baseball bat. If that happens, fair enough.
Get the free kick.
Yeah, off you get.
But 15 minutes.
That'll fix it, mate.
I absolutely agree.
Will Schofield, Mark Reading, Shelter FootyCast. All right, let's get into the game, Skeeta. Let's stay over here in the West. We finally got some footy back to both sides. The West Coast Eagles took on Essendon. Pretty competitive effort in the end. Better than I thought they were going to go. 112-92. They had their chances as well. Had almost the same amount of scoring shots as Essendon. Essendon were efficient and moved the ball well. That probably summarises Essendon's game. That when they got the footy, they were able to transition on West Coast easily at times, whereas it felt like a bit more of a grind for West Coast. Clearance-wise, West Coast very good,
yes,
with no Kelly and Reid in the side. They clearly, to me, changed the way they played through the midfield. They had a higher rotation through there. Liam Duggan was through there. Liam Ryan was through there. It was a constant stream of players, and they looked pretty fresh for most of the game through that middle of the ground.
Absolutely. There was a lot to like about them. Bear in mind, it's their 4th consecutive loss, so you still have to take that into account as being a defeat. But I thought that the signs were a lot better. And you mentioned some of those elements, the metrics, they were terrific in. And what they did do, and Tom Barras was terrific down back. I thought that was intercept marks was his specialty again yesterday, so credit to him. Liam Ryan was inserted through the middle. They were obliged to try and change things up, weren't they, given the absence of so many big names. So I thought the Eagles' performance was meritorious, and I think what they do with Oscar Allen now having come back, played a game of footy, kicked 2 goals for, clearly short of a gallop, but you're getting 6 shots at goal in your first game back.
You'd be happy with that.
It's a massive, and now it also takes the heat off the likes of Jake Waterman, who continues to thrive under those conditions. Jake Stringer, of course, was the difference. They win by 5. He kicks 5, so
he plays well against West Coast every time.
He
both
does,
as a Bulldog and as a Bomber, he gets up to play against West Coast. What does meritorious mean? Genuinely question.
Meritorious performance. Well, it's merit.
Certificate of merit.
Not Zach
good
Merritt.
Try.
Yeah, not Zach Merritt, but it's worthy of a pat on the back if it's fair to say that.
So the West Coast won the clearances by 9. So clearly, what they did through the middle of the ground worked. Like you can't argue against that. Liam Duggan was I thought pretty good in there, especially early. Elliot Yeo was good, a goal and 20 disposals, 13 tackles he had. So he, after signing the big 3-year deal, Skeeta, have we been? We've spoken about that, haven't we?
I don't think we did. I think it happened.
It happened Thursday.
It happened
Friday.
Happened Friday. Yeah. So just finishing on some of those numbers, they did win the inside 50 count. The Eagles.
Yep. A lot of ticks.
Yeah, 56-54, 109 more possessions. The tackles, 60-54. So a lot of those working in the right direction. Obviously, the efficiency. The only thing I'd be concerned about from an Essendon point of view, their defence was very good at the start of the season, but they're leaking a lot more goals in recent times. High scoring games, and if they're going to be a final side that's winning a final, they have to make sure they tighten up that aspect of the game.
Just tighten it, but I like the fact that they're scoring. If you need to give up a few goals to then kick even more, I don't mind that. I think we've seen the Brisbane, Collingwood and Brisbane and Sydney, GWS, when they're going well, they score heavily. And you can't do that without just leaking a couple more. Now, you're right, it needs to tighten up. Elliot Yeo, 3 years. We haven't spoken about it, you're right. How do you see that one?
I think it's great for Elliot. If you're in Elliot Yeo's camp, you're saying perfect. I would anticipate possibly there'd be a trigger with regards to 2-year contract and then an extra one on the end.
So I've heard that's...
Now, whether that's the case or not, I'm not too sure.
I've heard that's the
case.
That
probably sounds plausible to me on that front.
So why has that been put out by the club as a 3-year deal then? Because that's not a 3-year deal.
Well...
It's a 2-year deal with a trigger.
Yeah, if that's the case. So I've been told...
No, it's the case.
Yeah. So you think it's a 2-year deal with a trigger of the third?
So why is the club saying 3-year deal?
That's a good question.
So if we look at all the stakeholders, Skeeta, right, there's Elliot.
Yep.
There's the club. There's, I think, the playing group. And there's the fans, right, and media like us, who cares, right? So Elliot Yeo, great deal for him. 3-year deal, gets to stay at home, got a partner. Tess, who's having a baby, family here, the last thing you want to do in the back end of your career for a few more bucks is move all of that to another state. So, well, I've been saying this for a long time. I thought he was going to stay.
I never actually thought he was going to leave. I think the manager did a terrific job. I'm not sure who his manager is.
I think it's Colin Young. No, it's Colin Young. So that's the other stakeholder. So Elliot Yeo, great job. Colin Young, great job. You can't fault it. If you look at just them specifically, like he's representing his player, he gets the best deal possible, he gets to leave him at home and he gets paid his money.
Do you think the offers from the so-called offers from Adelaide, North Melbourne or Geelong, do you think they were real or do you think there was a bit of mayonnaise put on, as you would do if you're the manager?
I'll answer that with, I think Colin Young's a very good manager. I think he's the best in the business. That's my answer.
The best in the business?
Yeah, he's the best in the business. He gets his player the best deal possible, which is your job as the manager.
So you're saying other guys like Paul Connors and others don't do that?
Colin Young, best in the business.
Okay.
Shout out Cole, he's a big fan.
Is he manage you?
Does he now?
Did he manage you?
No, he didn't.
Actually. Oh, no, just asking. No.
His books were full. He was full of stars, and Schoey was scraping the barrel.
Very effusive, very bullish about...
I like the way he goes about his business. He gets the best deal for his client. That's literally what manager. There's not enough managers in our game that go, I want the best deal. I don't care if West Coast shouldn't sign Elliot Yeo to a 3-year deal. I want the best deal for my client, and that's the end of it. I think other managers try to deal with a club and they're worried about another player that they've got with the club and they're worried about this relationship and that relationship. Cole's got good relationships with everyone, and so good deal by him. The club.
But if you're saying it's a 2-year deal, that's, I think, what a lot of people like myself thought was fair.
2-year plus a trigger is probably it's a better deal by West Coast than a 3-year deal, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I think both parties win out of it.
Yeah.
And if his body is fine, continued into that 3rd year.
The playing group's the big winner here. You don't want a player like Elliot Yeo leaving your football club. So they've got to pay someone over the next little bit. We know some of their senior players are moving on. They'll pay Elliot Yeo. When he and Harley Reid are on the field, you can see they have an instant connection. They play the same way. They're aggressive, they're bulls, they tackle, they shrug, they fend off. They come out of stoppage doing the same thing. I'm sure there's lots of clips I'll have over the top of this where they run out side by side. They have an instant connection. And if you're the West Coast Eagles, yes, Elliot Yeo staying at the football club is great. Elliot Yeo being good mates with Harley Reid and showing him the ropes is even better because that's who you want to stay.
Yeah.
So I don't have too many faults in this one. The devil's advocate view would be he's 31 years old in October. Is his body going to hold up? But if it doesn't, they don't have to pay his 3rd-year trigger.
No. I've always been of the view, and I think others have as well, that once you get to 30 and beyond, 2-year deal is probably maximum.
I spoke to Dave Mundy.
He had 1-year deal
for 8 years.
8 years. Poor bloke. I mean, he was a gun who was so durable as well. He didn't have any injury issues.
I wonder if he was managed by Colin Young.
Anyway, you know what? Whether it's 7 1-year deals or 2 deals worth 3 each with a trigger, I mean, David got to, mid-30s and played some outstanding footy. And Elliot Yeo, hopefully, an Eagle for life, as Adam Simpson said yesterday.
To finish off on this, I think West Coast, this performance, it's a disappointing loss, but it's not the loss that fans look at and go, what are we doing here? They could see the competitiveness. There was sprouts of hope. If they can continue to do this, then everyone's happy. But they need to start winning games at home, and they should be winning them at home because I think this list is good enough now. They've got their players back. Tim Kelly will be back next week. Harley Reid will be back next week.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because...
who have they got?
They've got Hawthorn, and that's going to be tough.
Big game.
Hawthorn have been up for a while, so maybe it's a good time to get them. But I would suspect that, that should be a really good game. Almost 50-50. But Hawthorn probably deserve start favourites given the form they're in.
Hawthorn, my boys. Fremantle, 85 defeat. Gold Coast Suns, 65. Called this one yesterday with Fox Footy. You would have been down the road calling it for 6PR.
6PR, yep.
How did you see this one? Look, what did you think about this game?
I thought we expected a response from Fremantle, and we got it, exactly.
And then midfield specifically.
Midfield, absolutely. When you think of Brayshaw, Sarong, Young, they had 29 score involvements between them. And the big knock on the Dockers this year has been their midfield, or let's say this year, in past and even this year, has been their midfielders not hitting the scoreboard, either directly or in that sense. So I'm really happy to see them do what they did. You could just tell, but the first 10 minutes they got jumped, conceded the first 2 goals, but what we were expecting, and eventually turned out that way. Gold Coast slipped into some of those, away habits that they have, and Fremantle's intensity and hunt around the football was significantly better than theirs. And they were so good against the midfield of the Suns. who I thought, Toot Miller had a lot of the footy.
They were poor.
Raul started well, but no, you're right, they're poor. And we expected nothing less for them playing over here, which is an indictment on the culture that they've developed at the club at the moment in terms of their away performances.
There was a 45-minute period where Raul, Anderson and Miller had 0 clearances. 45 minutes.
It's a long time.
Right? Something like 15 minutes in the first, and they didn't have one for the entire rest of the first half. So that was poor. Driving home from Fox Footy, I knocked off straight away. I did hear 6PR was continuing their coverage right through to 6 o'clock. Were you on there? Or?
No, I was doing a Channel 7 show called The Game with Hamish Brayshaw, one of your colleagues. But if you're going to start throwing out...
no, I didn't bring it up for that reason, although I did find it funny. I was like, where's Skeeta gone? I swear he was calling this game. But they played the Justin Longmuir press conference, and he was asked about that midfield mix. They played an extra midfielder. So we were asking questions last week. Well, what's going to happen with this midfield mix? How do you get Brayshaw playing the game that he played? How do you
get more of Nat 5, make sure he's contributing in the way that he can?
So the way they did that was play an extra mid, and they rotated more heavily through the midfield. More players for more workload, and then share the load a little bit more. Andy Brayshaw, that was his best game of the year.
Yep.
I thought. He had 32 touches. 5 marks, 8 tackles, a goal, was aggressive, was attacking. He didn't do what I thought he might, which was go to a best player. But in the end, when he plays like that, Gold Coast should be scouting going, we need to go to Andy Brayshaw. And that's what you want. What I found really interesting, and we haven't seen it enough, and Freo fans might agree with me or not, at every first centre bounce of every first quarter, the 3 in the middle were Brayshaw, Sarong, Young, and Darcy as the ruckman. That's your best combo. I don't know why we put Fife, Johnson to share minutes for the first centre bounce. I reckon they had the first centre bounce clearance of every quarter. And it, as silly as that sounds, it sets you up. It gets you going. Put your best midfield in. This isn't just Freo. Clubs around the league don't play their best midfield at times. And yes, I know they're trying to give minutes to others and they're trying to share the load, which you can do. Not early in quarters, though. And I thought that was significant because they were dominant in there. Sean Darcy he responded, didn't he? Yeah,
he did, no question. And he took it upon himself because Witts is no gimme when it comes to an opponent. He's a very solid ruckman. But I thought Darcy's game, obviously, in terms of what he's done this year, that's got to be close to his best performance.
Correct. Well. So are we happy with that balance? So Sean Darcy played a lot of minutes in the middle. He kicked a goal, had 20 touches. 40 hit-outs. Luke Jackson, on the other hand, looked like he spent a lot of time forward. He had 2 kicks, 7 disposals. Wasn't that impactful. He had Mac Andrew on him for most of the day.
He was very athletic.
Good battle.
Yeah.
10 hit-out. Didn't really impact the game. That's probably not the balance that you want, is it?
No, it's not. But what are you looking for? You're looking for, on the day, you're looking for a result, which they got.
Yep.
In a different day, different opponent, that midfield mix with Jackson might be slightly different, but you're going to take a 20-point win against the Gold Coast Suns, knowing that Jackson didn't get much opportunity of the footy. I think you try and change it up going forward, but it's not the end of the world.
I just thought the way Freo played, almost all of their players is what we expect out of Freo, like Darcy to dominate, Brayshaw to be the attacking and tackling and goal-kicking mid. Sarong elite at stoppage, like at clearance. Hayden Young kicked 3 goals. Yeah. Like that's what we thought would be the case. He's in there to kick goals. Jordan Clark was, didn't have his 25, but he was impactful. I thought Jager O'Meara had one of his best games of the year. Heath Chapman was very good as an intercepting backman. Like all of their players, I look at almost everyone. I thought, well, that's who they are. You played well. They had almost 23 contributors, didn't they?
Absolutely. And I say this and back you up with the credit you give the Dockers, but gee, the Suns, you're
poor.
Yeah, they've been poor away from home a lot. But Fremantle, I expected them to win. I expected them to come out and show a bit of resolve. Justin Longmuir was so strong during the week about just racking up stats for the sake of it, etc. So it didn't surprise me. Of course, their biggest challenge is to come this week on the road, but they have one in Sydney. And look, outside of the Swans, there's no team that has been faultless or has been super consistent.
We know Carlton and Collingwood
Carlton and Collingwood are thereabouts, but outside of that, you've got to put Fremantle alongside the Giants and teams like that could fill out that top 4 position.
Essendon as well.
Yeah.
overall, good day at the office for Freo.
They'll be wrapped with that, absolutely. And the only concern is Alex Pearce with that arm injury.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen.
That's got to be a broken arm.
Longmuir suggested scans required, but the doctors, again, I don't know how this works medically at the ground, but the doctors said to him they didn't have the answer.
They can't scan it.
You
can't diagnose it. It's like the Petrarca one.
Yeah, well,
you can't diagnose the broken.
An interesting one. Listening to Dr. Peter Larkin on the Petrarca moment, an incident, which may still exist for say the Pearce injury, is that AFL clubs and doctors would love to have more medical testing available at grounds. And even Doc said, let's set up an area, a room for both clubs to use if there's a case like Petrarca where you can come off, get tested, and so therefore, under those circumstances, possibly be able to say, look, Christian, no, you can't come back on because we found this, and this wrong with you. So the Pearce one, you're saying it might be a broken arm. I
think it has to be, unfortunately.
Either way, he's spending some time on the sideline. Good news is Brendan Cox played some minutes in the Waffle reserves. It's not like for like, but it's a down the track in the next 2 weeks. You'd hope that he comes into that side if Pearce is out long term.
Definitely not back this week though against the Sydney Swans. And I look, hey, I hope Alex Pearce plays. Love the way he goes about his business. Just the way it happened, that tells me he's out for a little bit. But hopefully I'm wrong. All right, let's move to the other games. Skeeta Carlton defeat Geelong MCG 138-75. Your boys Geelong are just slip sliding their way down the ladder.
My boys on Friday, I backed and tipped the winning team there, so I was pretty happy with that.
You go.
Just
if we talk about your boys as who you backed and tipped, then you back and tip every bloody team in the comp.
This is coming from you. We've got Hawthorn, the Giants, Fremantle.
That's fine.
And West Coast.
I own that. You are yet to own that. You Geelong are.
They're not my team. I couldn't give a rat's if they won or lost. In fact, I was happy they lost by more than 7 points.
Paddy Cripps was big in this one, 41 disposals. Sam v. Tom DeConing was interesting.
Bit of push and shove between the two.
Yeah, because Sam's the Geelong player, right? Yes. Yeah.
And Tom DeConing's the one that Robbie Williams sings about.
Yeah, so Tom is a ruckman. Sam is a fullback. Why is Geelong playing Sam as the ruckman? Like for romance? It seemed a bit like that. It was like, we'll surprise Tom. Tom gave him an absolute blood bathing.
Yeah, he's a blood bathing. Yeah,
blood bathing.
He's a very good ruckman, isn't he? The Carlton version.
Yes. And 25, 1 goal, 40 hit-outs. Thanks for coming.
Outstanding. Yeah, they were good Blues. Best performance of the year, I reckon, from them. Michael Voss, I think, acknowledged that. Conversely, the Cats, look, they got within, I think, 4 goals or thereabouts, three-quarter time or close to it, but they just belted off the park in the last quarter. Tom Hawkins, injury. Do we see the Hall of Famer back again this year? Do we see him back again at all?
I think, and this hurts me because Tom Hawkins been an adversary on the field, but a mate of mine off the field, and as soon I was doing Friday Night Lights when this happened, and as soon as I saw it, I said that could be the last time we ever see Tom Hawkins. Lower limb injury. He struggled with foot and ankle injuries in the preseason. The way his body is, like he is a power athlete. Like he is the first 5 sort of guy. He did it with no contact. Something clearly snapped or broke or pulled in there. Like nothing about it looked good. Now, that's not limiting him to coming back, of course.
And if he does, look, I don't think he'll go on next year. That's just a gut feeling. I mean, that's probably taking the odds in my favour on that one. But I do hope that he doesn't bow out under those circumstances and gets the opportunity. I know it sounds romantic and all that sort of bull dust, but I quite hope that he gets that opportunity, particularly down in Geelong, to get the opportunity to say goodbye to the fans and play one more match.
If anyone deserves it at Geelong, it'd be
absolutely
him, I believe. So that's a big loss for them. Cats are nowhere. I'll say that.
But they're in the 8, aren't they?
Yeah, 7th. But
that's bizarre, isn't it?
Lost 6 of their last 7. They won the first 7 games of the
year.
They're
travelling as well as Port Adelaide, and they're in the 8.
Well, yeah, but I think Geelong are even further off the boil. That they don't have the players, Skeeta. Tom Stewart, if he gets tagged, he's their best player. Paddy Dangerfield back, but he's out for a week after that tackle.
They're challenging, and I agree with them in challenging.
Jeremy Cameron's their next best player. You just put a backman on him, and then who else is there? They don't have any good. They don't have any good players. Like the great players.
No, well they've got some great players, but I mean, you think of that. You mentioned Cameron. You mentioned
those
Dangerfield,
three.
Stewart.
Those three. There's no one else. Who's their next best player?
Well, Max Holmes has been good this year.
Mate, but he's a young guy.
I'm just saying guys that are yeah, you're right. Their list isn't great, and maybe they overachieved in the first part of this year. I didn't have them in the 8 at the start of the year. I don't think you did either.
No.
So probably the results are catching up with them in that sense. And
Patrick Dangerfield?
As in?
The incident.
Oh, no, I've looked at it. And I agree with Nathan Buckler here. Brian Taylor copped stick because he was defending Dangerfield. Is that right?
Mate, Brian Taylor, there's some petition saying get him off the air.
But was he saying it wasn't
he was just saying that it looked like Walsh was exactly what I was saying about
milking it.
Seven May. He was saying he was
I'm not saying he's milking it, but,
it's all just his opinion.
No, exactly. It's just as this. My opinion is I can't see what else Patrick Dangerfield could do under those. How do you tackle a bloke? Yeah, bring him to ground.
This is the case with all of this.
I know
stuff,
it is.
mate.
I know I'm going to be proven incorrect. He's going to
I
get a
agree
week.
with you.
But I just think how you
with
blokes at full tilt expected to. And I don't think he slammed him. I don't think he actually braced to try and make his impact, Walsh's impact with the ground, less severe than it could have been. So no, I reckon the Cats go for it. I just don't like seeing blokes get suspended. Put it this way: you got blokes like Zach Butters getting a $10,000 fine for going high on someone.
Yes.
Yet a bloke tackles someone in that manner and he gets a week.
It's a really good point, mate. Yeah, and this is the undercurrent I'm talking about. People don't like the look of it. You can't have someone punching someone off the ball, whether it was hard or not, right? And
it's his third or fourth time. Back-to-back weeks.
No, I'm not going to defend those actions, but I also understand how they happen. I'm not going to put my hand up and say I never did that. So, but you can't have that for a fine and then have the Dangerfield. Or I saw 2 separate ones over the weekend where the player was like slinging and rotating and then let them go because they're so bloody scared of what's going to happen.
Well, the Heath Chapman case tackle on the weekend yesterday
let him
also,
go.
yeah.
Free kick, dangerous tackle. So, okay, what's the alternative? I said this with Harley Reid and people hated it, but the alternative is not to tackle, mate. Like which is
can't do that.
Do you know what I mean?
But you're saying
it's outrageous.
So what would you prefer? The $10,000 fine that Butters copped, or a week for danger?
Week. What be 10 grand, mate? Tell you what, 10 grand would be half a year of pay for me.
The club doesn't chip in with that or not?
Absolutely not. No,
they used to, I think.
Well, I think you wouldn't like that though, would you? You wouldn't like football clubs to be. That's effectively saying, "Oh, don't worry about that. All good. You're chipping blokes off the ball."
I'm sure that used to happen. Now, whether it happens,
not in the last 15 years, mate. I never got one of my fines, mate. And I think it's
just quickly.
It's pre-tax earnings as well. I'm pretty sure. So
silly question.
More than 10.
So what do you do? Do you go and like you've been fined $2,000 for wrestling, for instance?
Yeah.
Do you have to then transfer the money to say how does it work?
hey, Dills, give us your BSB.
Hey, Alex, I'm just going to send some money. How much to the AFL? Oh, $1,500. What?
It'd be interesting to see how much I got fined during my career. It was a little bit.
But how do you give them the money?
No.
I don't know.
Big paper bag. There you go, boys. No, it is handled at club level. So, yeah. So, like I said, it comes out of your salary. Like, so say you're getting paid 100 grand, right? You suddenly then get paid 98 grand, right? Which then you get taxed on. So it's like a 4 grand. Like it's more than a 2 grand fine. Bloody hell. That's why. Give me 10 weeks. The 10 grand. Give me 10 weeks.
Anyway, Geelong and Carlton are cruising.
Absolutely. How'd we get there? Port Adelaide defeated by Brisbane in a bloodbath. Bloodbath. This was, you were probably put Big Kenny Hinkley under the spotlight a little bit after their performance against GWS a little bit, but 152-73. They didn't offer a wimp.
No, whimper, anything to even suggest that they're going to be a finals team this year. And look, to be honest with you, what I saw against the Giants was really concerning. I just thought they looked like a team that was slightly disinterested. They've got concerns, as you say, with some of their big-name players not fulfilling or living up to expectations. And down back, well, they got guys like Radigalia to come across to try and help Aaliyah.
Radigalia was a forward for a long time, isn't it? He's not a superstar.
No, but he was recruited. This was
Thatcher.
Yeah, Zerk Thatcher. These guys were brought across to try and bring some steel to their back line. No, they were poor, and so I did pick Brisbane with a fair bit of confidence on the weekend, and the Lions had them covered by half time, and the score they kicked. It's just, I'll tell you what, there is going to be, if they miss the 8, I'll say this again, if they miss the 8, Port Adelaide, I suspect that the changeover will happen sooner rather than later next year.
You wouldn't say it's overly positive when the coach is getting booed every time he's on the screen by the fans at the game. So that's what was happening. Anytime Ken Hinkley came on the screen.
Never tear us apart. It was,
it was torn.
As Cornsey said, they're just about fractured at the moment, and they're not playing great footy, and they're in the 8. That shows you. And we're probably going so hard on Ken Hinkley, who's got a team in the 8.
Yes.
It's just weird that some of those teams that currently could play in September look absolutely way out of the depth.
Is it Natalie and Brulia that sings Torn? Is that right? So maybe they should start playing that before games.
Doesn't quite have the same impact.
Play hand in hand like we're fucking fucked. Died up. Sorry.
Goes okay, Natalie and Brulia.
Yeah.
No, good. Very talented lady.
Thank you, Skeeta.
You brought it up. Right, Brisbane are going well. Let's be honest. Hipwood suddenly found out that he can play footy again.
Yeah, and Buddy Franklin, he's absolutely flying. Look, they have clearly, whether it was the bye, whether it was around mid-season, they made a decision and they said, right, we can't defend here. We can't play this game. We park the bus and we go with ball movement, and Zorko has 40 touches in the back line and chips and mark. Let's be aggressive and take the game on. And their team is built for this. Danaher and Hipwood need one-on-one contests. They need free-flowing footy. If they get anyone in their area, they can't compete. They're not those sort of forwards. They're not the big bash crash forwards. They need quick ball movement to be going, and that's what Brisbane's done over the past month. They look really good. Port Adelaide looked really poor.
What about the numbers?
I know there were some numbers. So Port are 8th on the ladder now. Brisbane are 10th. That's going to flip very soon. It was the 20th anniversary of the 04 flag as well for Port Adelaide.
Was that Saturday?
Yeah.
That would have been gone down like a lead balloon. Brisbane in the past 3 weeks kicked 17-12, 19-12, 23-14. There's some decent numbers there. That shows you where they're tracking. Off the back of that, in the first 11 games, Joe Danaher kicked 20-21 and had 8 missed shots. Eric Hipwood kicked 11-10 and had 4 missed shots. Charlie Cameron 18-16 and 9 missed shots. In the past 3 weeks, the Lions winning. That trio's kicked 26-15. So when you're talking the 3 stars that can really hit the scoreboard, they're a dangerous side, no question.
They'll need to get themselves into 5th or 6th, though. You can't be playing an elimination final
4 weeks in a row, doesn't work.
Away from home. They need to play 1 at the Gabba.
Yep,
but if they can get them, which they're not, how many points behind 5th and 6th? So 32, GWS are 6th, and Brisbane are on 30. So 2 points behind 6th place at the moment.
Well, they're not that far. I think they're 6 points out of 4th spot, aren't they?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so I would say Brisbane play finals, and they're not a side that you want to meet in finals, especially at home at the Gabba.
Well, you've made some horrendous predictions this year, but this one might come home to roost, because you did say they'd get on a run, and they'd play finals. So
if you throw 1,000 dartboards at the dartboard, Skeeta, one of them probably will hit. But in my experience, sometimes they don't. Travel and Sports Australia sending you to the West Coast Eagles game against Melbourne. This is in round 17, July 6th or 7th, somewhere there. July 7th the game. July 5th you'll fly out. The code word you need to enter at backchatstudios.com.au or shelterfootycast.com.au is...
yes, it is.
Do you remember?
This is the one involving Melbourne, is it? Yeah. Should I repeat it on mic?
Can you remember?
Petrarca.
Well done.
No, I was thinking about other stuff, like what I had to do today to go to another job and then go home and get up at 3 in the morning.
Sorry for keeping you scared.
No, just because sometimes this is like the advertorial goes on a bit long and I sort of get just a bit of a daydream. I lose my way a bit, Schoey.
Sorry, it's usually when I'm speaking that happens, no doubt. All right, Petrarca is the code word. That's the last reminder. That'll be awarded tomorrow. So you got about 24 hours to enter for your chance to get on the flight with the players and 2 tickets to the game at the MCG. GWS defeated by Sydney in the Battle of the Bridge, Skeeta. Called this one with 6PR, 102-75. The scoreline probably flatters GWS a little bit. They were pretty poor. They were pretty poor, and Sydney were pretty good for probably 20 minutes of the game. GWS were good to start. They had the right strategy and tactics. They were attacking Sydney. So I think how you beat Sydney is you've got to be aggressive. You can't control the ball and let them get behind the footy to then start their rebound. You need to play attacking footy, and they did that to start with, and then Sydney just said, hey, watch this, little brothers, I've got something to show you, and they went whack for 20 minutes through the second quarter, and the game was pretty much over after about an 8-goal-in-a-row stretch.
Question I've got to ask, when you look at this Sydney midfield, Heaney, Warner, Goulden, James Rowbottom's obviously playing some good footy as well.
Yes.
How do you stay up for I actually expect them to take care of the Giants because there's that really strong rivalry between them. But, yeah, this is going to be fascinating to see. Are they 3 games clear on top of the table? Either way, they're well on top. And the question is now they get to manage players through the back end of the season unless, there's a disaster with their on-field performances.
I don't subscribe to the Geelong in years gone by where they mandate it. It's like, hey, we've scheduled this in, and whether you're going well or not, you're having a break. But there'll be players that need a break. I don't like tinkering too much with a winning feeling, and I don't think players do and coaches don't either. You want to keep winning. That's how you stay motivated. Winning is the motivator. So, yes, you're going to get challenged.
And you also know you've got Callum Mills and Luke Parker, who in the back half of the year
Luke Parker's gonna be fresh.
They'll be putting great pressure on you. So they are. Things can go wrong. There's no point playing your best footy in June or July, but at the moment, they're going to sit, finish on top, get the 2 home finals, and make life a lot easier to get to the big one.
I don't actually think GWS are going that poorly.
No.
So 3 minutes into the second quarter, they kick a goal to scores level. From that moment, so from 3 minutes in the second. Goal to Logan McDonald, goal to Errol Goulden, rush behind GWS, goal to Tom Papley, goal to Jake Lloyd, behind to Sydney, goal to Taylor Adams, goal to Hayden McLean, behind by James Jordan, goal to Chad Warner, behind by James Jordan. So they get one rush behind GWS for a quarter of footy. Sydney kicks 7 goals, and it's over. Like, you can't come back from that. And they park the bus a little bit in the second half. That's where the motivation element is. It's like, we've done enough here. We'll do enough to win, but we're not going to keep killing them, and they can probably manage that for the rest of the season. Errol Goulden, I thought, was outstanding. He had 41 touches, had like 15 inside 50s. He to me, sometimes is the guy you may need to tag over Heaney and Warner. I think Heaney and Warner are going to do what they do regardless of a tag. Whereas Errol Goulden, if you can get someone that has the aerobic capacity to run with him, if you can stop him from having 41 and turn it to low 20s, that's it. The way he gets his footy, he's an uncontested player.
He's quick.
That's what taggers on uncontested players, they can really hurt them. Yeah, he's quick and he's fit, but I'd like to see a team, maybe it's Freo this week, put someone on him and say, run with him. Good luck to you, but run with him.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
No, look, it's pick your poison with the Swans, isn't it? Who are you going to try and nullify? But no, they're in really good form. And you know what? For what it's worth, I think it's not a bad time for Fremantle to get them. I mean, they're playing great footy. You know what you're going to get with them most times. You just hope you get them on a day. A bit like, was it 2 years ago? Last year, they certainly got them in Sydney.
Yeah.
And, so, Sydney's a very good side, and the Dockers will have to go to the next level. And if they don't get Alex Pearce back, which seems highly unlikely, then trouble. Yeah, the Giants, not as bad as, they're, one against the Port Adelaide side, but they were just outclassed, to be honest with you. Yeah. And the margin of, 27 points really could have been upwards of 10 goals if the Swans had wanted to really put the foot down.
Brodie Grundy, best recruit of the year by a long, 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 long way. As soon as Sydney got him, they would have just been licking their lips. They're a stoppage team. He's an all-Australian ruckman. He's probably competing for the top 2 spots right now between him, Cherry, and Gawn.
Yeah, and when you think Marshall, of what he's been through at Collingwood, Melbourne, I don't know Brodie Grundy from a bar of soap, but he looks like a decent fella. And if you are to have a storyline through September, he'd be, if Sydney are going well, he's the one that there's a bit of romance attached to the fact that he gets his opportunity potentially after being, behind Max Gawn at the Demons.
Melbourne defeat North Melbourne 70-67, and North Melbourne should have won this. They had opportunities to do it. They are building. I'm always happy to land on my sword here, Skeeta. I just thought they were completely irrelevant this year. And they've beaten West Coast. They should have beaten Collingwood. They should have beaten Melbourne. You win 3 in a row, right? So what did they lose by 2 points to Collingwood after leading with not long to go? North Melbourne, they had opportunities late. If they win 3 in a row, then you've got to say, well, I mean, they're competitors now in the competition, and they'd be off the bottom of the ladder. And Richmond would be 1 game clear of West Coast for a second wooden spoon in a row.
Yeah, you're right. And when you say you've always thought they were going to be relevant this year. But when you've got so many high-end draft picks available, and look, depending on when they develop, that they've got the bones there for a reasonable side. Now, their defence is still something of concern, I think, moving forward.
Griffin Logue was back in the VFL this week.
Yep. So
they are desperate for him, someone exactly like him.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And the Demons, well, they get the 4 points, but I think Simon Goodwin, the most relieved bloke.
Simon?
What did I say?
Tom?
No, Simon Goodwin.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the coach of Melbourne will be very happy to get the points. As you said, they were under siege in the last quarter, the times that I was watching that match on Saturday night, North Melbourne were asking more questions than Melbourne. That's the end result. But they couldn't. They look like a team that still just doesn't know how to win matches.
Yeah, look, they were pretty close to looking like they knew what they were doing, to be honest. Like they did all the right things. Wardlaw lifted. He was great again. Sheezel was very good with 2 goals and 27 touches. I thought Eddie Ford was really good for North Melbourne. He kicked 2 goals, and he was the guy that was tackled by Stephen May. Davies Uniacke,
gun star,
absolute. He's in my dream team. He's actually a better player on the field than he is in my dream team. Like, he's probably top 5 midfielder at the moment.
The question is, what is his future? If he decided to leave the club, the dollars he could command would be
significant.
I don't know. We're talking about Chad Warner. What they're looking at with him, he has to be in that same.
Do you reckon North
echelon?
Melbourne's results over the next 8 weeks are competing for his signature?
Don't.
Imagine if they play the same way they've played the last 3 weeks for the rest of the year. You'd have to, as someone who's been at the club for his whole career, go, well, I should say here, we could be on the verge of something.
Yeah, I think. I'm not saying it won't have some impact, but you're right. If you can feel the club going in the right direction, and clearly they are at the moment, and they're going to finish probably bottom 4 again, most likely. That gives them another good look at the draft. I think you're right though. If you LDU and you're seeing what's happening, it's even though they lost on the weekend, they'd be bouncing around the club going, right, boys, we're in this. We're back. We're playing good footy, and we're knocking on the door.
Phillips did an absolute number on Clayton Oliver, like tagged him like I've never seen before. Clayton Oliver was irrelevant. 0 tackles, 0 marks, 14 disposals, and had like 5 free kicks against.
Shadow the player, isn't he, of one we know?
Well, yes, but he's their best player, and Phillips did a great job. And the other one was Jackson Archer. He was incredible on Bailey Fritsch. Bailey Fritsch had 2 kicks on the day, and it makes me think, is it nature over nurture, or nurture over nature? Like, he looked like Glenn Archer. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
The way he played, he's hard, he's tough, he's role-driven. Some of these defensive roles, it's mental over physical. Like, I'm sure he can play really good footy and run around and get his 30 touches. He probably could do that. But Clarkson has gone to him, go and shut this bloke down. Having 30 or having this game, I'd want that game every week from Jackson Archer. I thought he was outstanding. And Kangaroos get closer to another victory, but they couldn't quite get it done. On the bye, Adelaide, Collingwood, Hawthorn, Richmond, St Kilda and Dogs. We're going to see them all this week, Skeeta, which is going to be brilliant. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shoulder FootyCast. All right, let's get into our listener questions, Skeeta. If you want to send us an email, we'd love to hear from you. FootyCast@backchatstudios.com.au, or you can put a comment through on YouTube or on socials. Shoulder FootyCast on Instagram. Just a couple to finish us off, Skeeta. G'day, Schoey and Skeet. I'd just like to know, are the West Coast Eagles, in your mind, an arrogant side getting beaten by teams they probably consider to be beneath them?
Was that from last?
Yeah,
Monday?
It was. Yeah, so why is that still there? Okay.
I thought it sounded, once you said arrogant, the West Coast Eagles, anyway, we dismissed that as not being the case.
Thank you. Have we read this one? No. Hi, Mark and Will. And when I say we, I mean me.
It's like when you're reading a text message at 6PR. I get there and you suddenly see, A, it doesn't make sense, B, there's language you can't use, and it's quite disconcerting.
Thank you for that, Robert. Thank you very much. Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark and Will. I've had enough of the AFL giving excuses around Victorian bias. This is a bit of a long one, so stay with me, Skeeta.
All right.
Just tune in to me because you're going to have to answer some questions, okay?
Keep it quick.
Tune in because I'm not going to be listening to myself. The AFL had the chance to at least make the competition more equal when 2 teams were added over 15 years ago. What should have happened was 2 teams from Melbourne that were/are struggling financially should have been relocated to the Gold Coast and Western Sydney respectively. This wouldn't reduce the travel for the Eagles or Dockers, but at least increase travel of Melbourne Victorian teams and thus somewhat reduce the natural bias in the competition. By relocating teams from Melbourne, they would already have established supporter bases instead of 2 new teams trying to wrestle supporters from existing teams and codes. I'm aware that more teams means more games to be telecast and more revenue through broadcast deals, but I truly believe the population of Australia is not at the level to support 20 teams by the mid-2030s, assuming a 20th team will be announced as soon as possible. The AFL is copying the NFL in almost every respect, from constant tinkering of the rules to splitting the draft over multiple days. Give me a break. 50 to 60 AFL draft days compared to 250 in the NFL. Do it in one sitting, for fuck's sake. I'm just reading verbatim, Skeeta. The NFL has 32 teams, but the United States of America has a population of over 330 million people compared to Australia's 26 million. The only aspect of the NFL that they need to incorporate into the AFL is moving the grand final around the country. As a West Australian, it is an event that I will likely never be able to attend due to the cost of travel and accommodation. It was here 2 years ago. The Victorians also don't acknowledge the massive advantage it has. There is a reason that since the Eagles won in 2006, only 2 interstate teams have won the grand final, Swans in 2012 and Eagles in 2018. I actually believe that the Melbourne Demons would be demanding the grand final be played outside Victoria all the time, given the fact that they have only won the AFL grand final outside of Melbourne. The AFL started in 1990. Bit of a rant, but I think it's warranted from Jeremy. No questions there, actually, Jeremy.
No, just a statement of frustration by the sounds of it. Yeah, I agree with a chunk of that. I'm an advocate for, some are saying best of 3 grand finals so that interstate clubs get that opportunity, but the decider's always got to be at the MCG. The grand final till 2059 has been locked away, which is going to see me out of the equation, but you have to look at, I like the idea of
moving grand final.
Well, even once a decade, just to give other parts of the country an opportunity. That's not going to happen. The travel burden, we're not going to get to 20 teams, I don't think, in the short term. I think 19 obviously with Tasmania, but I don't think the AFL's in a huge rush to get 20 in. I think they're just sitting back quietly at the moment.
Every team will have a bye.
Yeah.
Every week there'll be a team on the bye next year.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And there certainly won't be any reduction in matches. The AFL with the broadcasters aren't going to want to lose teams. You're right. North Melbourne going to the Gold Coast probably made sense going back in the day when they had the chance. I hate whinging about the AFL and the national competition. I know that Mark Evans has put a submission in. The AFL, I think, is going to discuss that this week with clubs and what can be done. I think at least now, Laura Kane and those in charge are trying to find ways to minimise the travel and hopefully get some level of equalisation, which is not ever going to happen to its fullest. How about starting by playing each other team once before you play another team in terms of getting the fixturing right?
I like that.
There's so many other elements to it. But yeah, Jeremy, I sense you. I hear your pain, and it's hard to win if you're interstate club, but this is a national comp, and it is more on Victoria's terms in terms of their clubs than ours, for sure.
Couple on Freo to finish off. This is from Billy. Hey, lads, I've been hearing constantly that the reason Will Brodie can't get a game in the ones is because of his tank and his two-way running isn't up to scratch. That is true. I believe true. Surely the solution to this is to use him as a super sub with Fife, and at halftime or halfway through the third, if there have been no injuries, Fife comes off, Brodie comes on and can have a full impact on the game without worries about his ability to run out the game. The only issue, I think, would be Brodie's lack of versatility as a player. If a key back or forward goes down, he can't exactly replace them. But we have seen how flexible players like Aish and Banfield has been, as well as the likes of Pearce and Cox going forward. Thoughts? Don't mind it.
Yeah, well, Brodie, I mean, if you're going to reward performance, what do they call it? Selection integrity.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, if there's ever going to be a time where the midfield mix was changed up, it was after that loss to the Bulldogs. I'm not sure Brodie can do much more. Has he got enough ability and interest from other clubs if there's an opportunity elsewhere? Because it doesn't look like...
Did he get injured on the weekend?
Brodie?
One kick and 4 handballs.
Is that right? He must have got... Because Neil Erasmus was held over. He wasn't played for Peel.
Yeah, 1 kick and 4 handballs.
Yeah,
Has to have been injured.
That doesn't sound right. No. Yeah, Peel played against West Perth and they won that game.
Yep.
I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the case. Well, I might be wrong, but they're not the numbers we're used to.
No. And last one, Skeeta, why would Freo do that? So we're talking about Chad Warner on Thursday, getting $1.6 million to get to Fremantle.
Yep.
Why would Freo do that when they have a very good young midfield already? It makes no sense to me from a cost perspective. West Coast have pick 1 to 3, wherever they finish this year. And if Harley Reid won't commit beyond 2025, then they should get a trade done to enter the market with enough currency for Warner.
Yeah, we know that the Eagles have got really good salary cap space. We're going to be able to be in a good position on that front.
They need draft capital.
But either way, if you look at the Eagles, if they put Warner into that mix alongside Yeo and Reid, Kelly, etc., they're going to look immeasurably better. But so too Fremantle. And I know you think they've got a really good midfield, but I think that if think of how deep some of the better midfields are in the AFL at different clubs, the better clubs. If you're going to get Chad Warner, if you can get him somehow, you've got the 3 first-round draft picks. That's the collateral which is probably going to get a deal done, as opposed, and that's if Warner's keen to come across, as opposed to the salary cap with the Eagles.
I asked Dave Mundy if they should do that deal specifically, like trade two first rounders, maybe even a future first round next year, and pay 1.6. And he said, without doubt, just go and do it.
Yeah,
go straight away.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
100%. Because I think they're well set up down back. Their forwards, young forwards, have got plenty to offer. I just think he gives you that real. Imagine that with Brayshaw, Sarong, Young, Warner.
Yes.
And that thing, I know, leaving Nat Fyfe out of that because we're sort of moving
the
next 2 or 3. You know, if you're a Docker supporter, you're dreaming.
Scary.
Yeah.
That's us, Skeeta. Shout out FootyCast on socials. You want to keep sending those emails through, please do. FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au. Go and enter the code word for your 2 tickets to go and see Melbourne play West Coast. Tassa over there as well, Skeet. Maybe you can put the $30 into my bank account for fixing your phone?
Yep, no, phone is fixed, all working well. I'm thankful to you, and you should open up your own little tech store. Thank you.